now we're rolling out the red carpet because it's time for your cognitive bodyguard, your intellectual escort through troubled waters, battling the entropy and atrophy of the human mind. I'm your Huckleberry and your host. It's Brian. I'm in and very glad you joined us for today's ride. So what do you say? Let's get ready to mortal up.
All right, welcome everybody. Thank you so very much for joining us this evening. Mortal Up, as you can see from the t-shirt, Mortal Up. I wish I'd like Bloomberg. I need a peach crate to stand on, but in any event, you get the concept. So what I'd like to do this evening, if I could, is jump right in. A little bit of a backstory, because I got a lot of feedback about this whole meditation without the mashugana, right? So I thought I'd give you a little... just a little backstory about me, how I got started in this, and then jump right into the Mortal Up section so that we can start to bolster, right? At the very least, we can make sure that our immune system doesn't have its hands tied behind its back, right? That we can make it's something that we can do to make it work. So that's what we're going to focus on here in just a little bit. But I should tell you, I've been studying this now for 35 years, whether you call it an art, whether you call it a martial art, whether you call it a form. I've traveled as far away as China to hone the mindset that I'm going to share with you this evening. First off, let me say thank you for everyone that's joined us over at mortalup.com. If you get a chance, head on over. Normally, we would take your vote, who you want to nominate for Low Life's Making Headlines, but good golly, there's so, you just get in the social media feed, you pick any one of 100 for that. Well, also, we're going to allow people to vote there as to where or the person that they want for Mortal Up, that Mortal Up segment. So you can do that as well. But we're going to suspend those this evening so that we can get right into this, because we did have such a really great interest, if you will, in, when I'm busy running around going, look, if you just breathe, if you knock down the stress, it'll be easier for you to be able to do it. I was talking to my good friend today on her way to work. She likes to call me on her way into work. So that's where I got the concept of being a virtual hitchhiker, right? Because I know when she's going, she'll call me and I'll talk her in. So one of the things that we talked about today is why it's so important not to be stressed, why it's so important to kind of just take a deep breath, so we're going to focus on the exact deep breath. Now, let me say, this is not the opinion of the motivation industrial complex, right? This with their self-help industry tactics. Think of the acronym, self-help industry tactics, right? The higher consciousness cartel, or as I've mentioned them before, is the cognitive cabal, right? Because everyone wants you to believe that there's a higher version of you, a better version of you, that instead of being a human getting, then all you need to do is become a human getting. You need to get to a seventh heaven. You need to get a better self. You need to get a higher consciousness. All baloney. BS, if you will, right? Self-help industry tactics. So what I'd like to focus on this evening is throughout this 35 years, and I started a while ago after my father's suicide. You may or may not know that I was a police officer in New York. And was called to the scene of my father's suicide. And to be honest with you, it really changed me. I had a great sergeant at the time that taught me all kinds of things about investigation. So when those two things crossed in my life, I had to figure out why my father took his own life. I mean, the why, right? You could say, he was depressed, he was unhappy, he was full of stress, he was at that. But specifically what I wanted to learn is what compels a human mind to turn against itself, right? When you've heard me say in the past, when you turn a blind eye and a deaf ear, when you turn your own back on yourself, I wanted to know the particulars. I wanted to know what happened to make that happen, right? What happened to the lone voice of dissent when every other voice in his head was calling for him to jump from that 13-story building? Where was the lone voice of dissent? Did it go for a smoke? Was it screaming, but it just got drowned out by all the other voices? So I resigned from the police department and spent 35 plus years studying what happens to a human mind when it turns on itself. And as many of you may know, spent a little bit of time, as I said earlier, in China, studying from experts in the particular field that we're going to talk about, or the particular right? Because I said in the post here, we're going to demystify. We're going to take the Meshuggah out of meditation. And that's why it's not popular with the higher consciousness cartel, the mindfulness cabal, all the rest of this, right? Because they want you to get something. And I'm here to tell you, you already have it. There's nothing to get. You've got it. Like at Christmas, so, when it says, oh, this toy comes and you need batteries. Well, there's no batteries required. You already have those batteries, right? It's buried in the marrow of your mind, your authentic vigor. It's in you already. And what I thought we'd focus on tonight, and remember, these are 20-minute victories because I don't want to take credit for breaking the internet, right? I want to steal Al Gore's thunder. I'm not going to take credit for breaking the internet. So we're going to do this 20 minutes. So in the remaining time that we have together for the Brian Brawdy Show, which I guess this is episode 469, I believe. Wow, we're climbing up there. But what I wanted to share with you, and throughout the rest of the week, some of the other things that I've done, because people say all the time, well, what do you know about protecting yourself from Wuhan virus? What do you know about COVID-19 or this or that? And although I've studied it to a great degree, I can tell you that anything that you can do to help reduce stress in your life, everything that you can do to help your own natural nomenclature rise to whatever challenge fate brings to it, we're all better off if we do that. So one of the things, we'll be talking about why I filtered my air, why I filtered my water, some of the different things that I've done to make sure that my immune system wasn't busy putting out all these other fires. And obviously the air that I breathe, the water that I drink, some of the, not a lot, to be honest with you, but some of the supplementation that I take is all in an attempt to let my immune system get up off the mat, right? To be able to at least square its shoulders with fate and go, look, you picked on the wrong guy to try to pull down. And that's with 5 brain surgeries, right? So a part of that is that my immune system has been compromised by some of the most heavy-duty antibiotics known on the face of the earth to try to knock out any kind of virus, any kind of infections that I may have picked up in the hospital when they were busy holding my brain in their hand, right? Oh, and speaking of holding the brains in my hands, I'm amiss that I didn't do it last night. Here's the prayer bowl, just so you all know. Prayer bowl still with me. I never do a show without my prayer bowl or gong. I just can't figure out how to get the gong in here. It's kind of big, really. But in any event, there's the prayer bowl. Thank you for reminding me. So now you jump ahead. I got this golf ball size brain tumor, 5 surgeries to get it out of me and reduce the leaking. Now, why did I want to bring up the leaking? It's like, Brian, we've heard this story, right? We're sick of hearing this story. Enough already. But here's what happened. After the surgery, I spent 2.5 years with a spinal fluid leak. I'd wake up at times, I don't know, sometimes maybe you could have noticed early on, I had a good bit of swelling around my neck, a good bit of swelling maybe you can still see a little bit at the base of my skull. But what happened was they couldn't plug the leak. Now, why do you give a rat's tuchus about whether they could plug my leak? Well, because what was leaking was spinal fluid. And here's what I've learned in all of the studies before, during, and now after. That when you're able to bathe your brain in spinal fluid, things just start going right in terms of the mental energy. Now, we could get into all the technical stuff, and if you want to send me an email, you're more than welcome to. You can reach out. Twitter is Brian Brawdy. Facebook is Brian Brawdy Official, I think is the name of it. So, or drop me an email or head on over to mortalup.com, send me an email, and I'll give you all the particulars of it. But here's what I found. Here's the meditation without the Meshuggah. Your brain digs being bathed in spinal fluid. And what happened to me post-surgery is with this spinal fluid, I'd wake up in the morning sometimes with like an orange out the back of my head, right? And I would wake up and the swelling would just be tremendous. And I'd have headache, or as one would, right? You have headaches because my brain was just like sitting on the skull. All the spinal fluid was draining out of me. But I thought a lot about the amnesia, the bouts of amnesia, and I'm going to miss it because it's a built-in alibi. Who are we kidding, right? I love it. Did you really go to Wendy's and have a Big Mac and a large, or have a double and a large fry and a Diet Coke? Oh, no, that wasn't me. I don't think so, right? It's just been a great alibi. But here's what I've learned, that your brain so digs that spinal fluid, mine was leaking out. It wasn't getting enough. You know what else? You know another situation where your brain doesn't get enough spinal fluid? When we don't breathe properly, when we don't breathe like a pro, when we don't inhale the way nature intended. So what I thought we could do for the last 10 minutes tonight is really focus. It's very, very simple. No 12-point class, no, nothing to buy, no flowers to cut, no incense to burn, although you could. I love the incense, right? None of that stuff. Here's what I've learned about bathing your brain in spinal fluid. Your spine is a built-in pump. Forget all the Meshuggah, forget the Kundalini yoga, forget all the rest of that, just for now, right? I don't mean to offend anyone that's into that, but tough, right? Forget all that for now. This is meditation for us regular folks. When we take in a deep breath, now let's do it this way. When we take in a shallow breath, we got our masks on, and that's not much of a pump going, is it? We're not bathing our brain in the very spinal fluid that I was leaking, as I said, throughout the shows that I did at that time. I'm a couple quarts low. What do you expect? It's a B-rate show. Well, I'm leaking spinal fluid. But here's what I figured out after the fact. That after your head is plugged, right, and it's a sealed system, when you're not busy doing the shallow breathing, when you're not busy in stress, when your body isn't busy sending blood to your arms so that you can fight, or blood to your legs so that you can flee, or just basically going so you can freeze. Right about now, Wayne's going like, I think the signal just froze, right? So we know now it's fight, flight, or freeze. What happens is when you have a controlled system and you breathe really shallow, you breathe in the chest, not much of a pump. And the word I was looking for last night, which I had right before I got ready to say that, a bellows. Thank you very much, brain. It's a bellows. So imagine if you turn sideways, your body is a bellows. And imagine you have the front and the back hand of the bellows. And in order for air to rush out of that bellows, you squeeze the two handles together. Yes, so you go, whew, whew, whew. So here's what I'd like you to do. To practice this breathing, to take the Meshuggah out of meditation, to help all the self-help industry tactics and stand them on their heads. Here's how you and I are going to treat our spine, treat our nomenclature like a pump. What are we going to pump? Spinal fluid up into the brain, because we've learned that the brain digs spinal fluid. So here's what we do. When we draw in a deep breath, the handles of the bellows, right? Imagine one handle is below your navel, right above your groin. And the other handle, if you will, is the crack of your tuchus. Let's just say the top part of your tuchus, right? I warned you there'd be Yiddish, the top part of your tuchus. So I want you to take in a deep breath, but don't initiate the breath with your lungs. Initiate that breath all the way down in the bottom of your stomach, the very top of your glutes, your gluteus, your tuchus again, right? So you draw that breath in so that your stomach feels like it's going to hit the floor. Now, as you exhale, and it's almost like a tube of toothpaste. People are going to say, really? You're learning meditation from a guy that says it's just like a tube of toothpaste? If you can spit it out. Yes, it's just like a tube of toothpaste. And anyone that tells you that it isn't is trying to get you to give up a credit card number. All right, so here's the scoop. You know when you start running out of toothpaste, you roll up the ends, and as you roll up the ends of the toothpaste, more and more of it is like focused towards the actual mouth of the top of the toothpaste, so you can squeeze, and then you put it on your toothbrush. What's the same with spinal fluid? Absolutely the same thing. When you take your deep inhale, now as you get ready to exhale, you're going to exhale through your nose if you would. I'd like you to contract those same muscles, just like rolling up the tube of toothpaste, right? Contract those muscles. And as you contract them, pull your stomach. Now we're pushing the two handles of the bellows together, because as we do, it not only sends your breath up to be exhaled through your nostrils, it starts to pump because you're contracting all these muscles, right? It starts to pump spinal fluid up into your brain, and then you and I just trust that our brain will take it from there. So here's what we're going to do. Draw in as deep a breath as we can. Let our navel fall to the floor. And what does that do? It opens up. In addition to opening the sutures in your brain, it takes your pelvic girdle, right? It takes what's called your coccyx, and it also opens it up as well. So you're going to draw in a deep breath, right? Just like you would on that bellows. And when you exhale and you squeeze the bottom, you roll up the bottom of your tube of toothpaste, you put in those handles, you pull in on that bellows. Now, as soon as you get to the top, I'd like you to squeeze out a little more. Squeeze your cheeks. Squeeze your butt together. Squeeze your stomach together. Force every bit of that air up and out. Now hold it 5 seconds if you can. So you're going to go like this. Navel hits the floor. Ready? Coccyx is open, as you know now, right? As we've got the handles of the bellows are all the way open. I'll get a bellows for tomorrow. I'll find one somewhere under lockdown, right? I'll find a bellows. Maybe that could be an essential business. You open up the bellows. Now, there goes the coccyx. As soon as you start to squeeze the handles, you're forcing that air back up. You know you're going to breathe out through your nose. You're forcing that air. Force it. Then squeeze your glutes, squeeze your stomach, almost as if you're trying to excrete, right? Just squeeze. What does that do? It forces all the air out. So your lungs are breathing like they mean it, right? They're taking in a breath like they intend it all the way to the bottom. But more importantly, as you compress the diaphragm, as you compress all the muscles of your glutes, all the muscles of your lower stomach, it acts like a pump. Now, just like if it were a bellows, right? You use the bellows to blow air into a fireplace. Well, contracting all those muscles is a pump that actually pumps that spinal fluid up from the different regions of your spine, all the way up, 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 up. And as you're holding your breath, it continues to pump that spinal fluid up, and it begins to bathe your brain. So you hold it for 3 to 5 seconds if you can. Sometimes I hold it even longer. You hold it, then you start it all over again. You slowly draw in the exhale, letting your stomach hit the floor. Now, as you get ready to inhale, stomach hit the floor. As you get ready to exhale, push it all the way up, hold it. Now, while you're holding it, I just want you to cultivate a sense of gratitude. We touched briefly on this last night. We don't have a lot of time to go into it, but Garden of Eden, the snake comes around. Oh, Eve, you ought to eat this apple, right? And then that's the birth of the analytical mind. But at that time, when you force out all the air, you contract your glutes, you contract your abdominal wall, you're busy pumping all that spinal fluid up into your brain. The sense of gratitude, right, that you cultivate outside of the analytical mind. People go, oh, meditation is all about not paying attention to your thoughts. Swing with you on, right? Meditation, you want to get behind your thoughts? Just be grateful for whatever comes. And just have that sense of gratitude. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And then you go ahead and start your inhale. Now, we call this 20-minute victories just like the show. I do a 20-minute victory morning, noon, and night. So you might find that you do this first thing in the morning. It's a great way. Again, put your lungs through the paces, right? People are so scared, so stressed, so caught up in everything they've got going on. They breathe from like their sternum up. That doesn't do anything. We want to breathe like you mean it, like your whole body's involved in it. And when you exhale, push, 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 contract all those muscles. Like you can envision contracting those muscles all the way up the spine, like you're squeezing that tube of toothpaste all the way up to the top. Now you know the spinal fluid is busy bathing your brain. And when that happens, in that instant, you're holding your breath, then you just go, thank you, thank you, thank you. Even just cultivate the sense of gratitude and guaranteed watch the smile that comes to your face, even without thinking of anything to be grateful for other than just the ability to work this pump. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. It's 2-word mantras. I've used this for a huge chunk of the 35 plus years after I learned this. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. You do it all over again. I set the alarm for 20 minutes. So for 20 minutes, I'm focusing on nothing more than A, making sure I'm breathing as deeply as I can. B, making sure I'm contracting all those muscles so that the spinal fluid is forced up the spine into my brain. And C, as I hold my breath, I'm thinking about gratitude. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And when that happens, you're going to be very pleasantly surprised. And now, like we talked before about 20-minute victories, you can't learn how to do a pull-up, right? And go out tomorrow and do 100 of them. You do them one at a time, progressively adapt. Just like muscle training in a gym, progressive adaptation, right? A little bit of stress, muscle gets stronger. The same will happen with your breath. Practice 20 minutes in the morning, 20 minutes at lunch if you get a chance. Nice thing is you don't have to sit all cross-legged. You don't have to like torque your knees. It's not about the gymnastics of it. It's about gratitude, not gymnastics. So go ahead, focus on the breath. In that instant, when you get all of the spinal fluid moving towards your brain, focus on the sense of gratitude. And again, watch the smile that comes to your face. All right, in an effort to keep my word and get out of here in just over 20 minutes so we're not busy clogging everything up, thank you so very much for joining us. Tomorrow we're going to talk, oh, look at that. Tomorrow we're going to be talking about what? Will you stop already? Is that how you hit stop? I thought I hit stop. Done. All right, who knows what that is. So we'll just go ahead and get it done this way. But tomorrow night we're going to be talking about some of the other things. We're going to be talking about honest to goodness, you talk about that. There you go. We're going to be talking about everything we can to do in terms of filtering our air, filtering our water, and just some of the other things. All right, we're going to go ahead and get out of here. Thank you so very much for joining us. Don't forget, hit us over at All Natural Being, and we'll set you up, allnaturalbeing.com or mortalup.com, and we'll take all your questions there. We'll answer them as best as we can, maybe even answer some on the air tomorrow evening. Thank you all so very much for joining us. We're going to go ahead and get out of here. Thank you so very much. Have a safe evening. We'll see you tomorrow.